good afternoon, and a very warm good afternoon to everyone who is joining us. Let me apologize for being just a little late. We were just trying to resolve some technical glitches, but I want to say on behalf of the Omega Kappa chapter of Sigma, we want to just say a very warm Jamaican welcome. In the words of the famous Bob Marley, it would be remiss of me not to say, let's get together and feel all right. We are here to have a wonderful 2 hours together to talk about the nursing shortage that's impacting us globally, to talk a little bit about our retention strategies. My board and I discussed it and we agreed that we're not necessarily having a challenge with recruitment, but retention, we need to have a voice, be a voice, and continue the conversations about how do we retain our colleagues. So we have with us 4 panelists, and you'll be hearing a little bit about each of them. But let me just do the preliminaries. So I want to especially welcome Dr. Schaefer. I want
Hi.
to say a warm welcome to Mrs. Warner. You will hear who they are in just a few seconds. I want to welcome Mrs. Mason Quarry, and I want to welcome Mr. Roy Thompson. I
Thank
want
you.
to especially welcome our head of school and our regional coordinator as well, Dr. Monroe and Dr. Moreno. And I want to welcome all the persons who are joining us, all the members of our chapter, and all our colleagues from across Jamaica, the region, and the globe. So, we are having 3 parts today. We are going to be starting off with a bit of information and presentations from our 4 panelists. And Dr. Schaefer will be going up first, followed by Mrs. Warner, and then Mrs. Mason Quarry, and then Dr. Thompson. And then we are going to be moving into 3 breakout rooms. So each breakout room there'll be one looking at retention strategies and nursing education. There'll be another for nursing practice and retention strategies. And there'll be another one for nursing research and retention strategies. We will have 2 persons co-leading in each breakout room. Dr. Schaefer will be joined by the lovely Dr. Jacqueline Witter, or chapter member in New York. You'll hear about them when we get to the breakout room section. Dr. Thompson will be joining our lovely Dr. Lindo for the nursing research breakout room, and Dr. Russo will be joining her other namesake, Sandra Chisholm Ford, in the nursing education breakout room, and they'll all be introduced to you as we go along. We will close the breakout rooms and come back. Somebody from the breakout room give us a quick summary, and then we're gonna close with a Q&A session just to make sure we're all on the same page. So without further ado, I want to again say a warm welcome. I want you to all know we're over on the YouTube channel. So I want to say welcome to the persons who will join us on YouTube as well. And as I go along, if there's anybody near we need to give a very extra special warm welcome to, I will just do so. So I want to hand over in the order. First, I will ask Dr. Sonia Patricia Carreno Moreno, or coordinator of the Latin American Caribbean region, to greet us warmly. And she'll be followed by Dr. Dawn Monroe, who will greet us as the head of school at UWISON Mona. And then we will get right into our presentations, and we will have 2 of our chapter members, Mrs. Pauline Anderson Johnson and Mr. Desmond Croker, introducing our panelists. And just in case I didn't say it, my name is Cheryl Garrix Lloyd. I lecture at the UE School of Nursing Mona, and I have the awesome privilege of being the president of the Omega Kappa chapter of Sigma. Over to you, Dr. Moreno.
Good afternoon for everybody. I'm Sonia Carreño Moreno. I'm the regional coordinator of the Sigma Theta Tau International of Latin region. I'm from Colombia. I work in Universidad Nacional de Colombia, that is the main university in our country. And I want to say thank you for this invitation. Thank you for having me here and for allowing me to say hello to you. I want to thank you for this amazing event. I know that these webinars are supporting the call to action from our organization. Especially today, the shortage of nursing is a special topic because topics to support the economic topic from both in our region. So Cheryl, you are doing an amazing role in this president's role. And thank you for all of doctors to inviting us. Here we are with many Colombian nurses. So we are expecting to learn from you, and we are expecting to do our best with our low English, but with our great ideas. So it's honor to open this webinar. Thank you so much, and have a successful event.
Thank you so much, Dr. Moreno. Dr. Monroe?
Ah, there is my mic. I couldn't find it. Good afternoon, everybody. It is absolutely a pleasure. I'm Dawn Monroe. I have the awesome privilege of leading the UWI School of Nursing at this point. So thank you, Madam President, for this opportunity, and welcome to everybody on behalf of the UWI School of Nursing. I am anticipating this afternoon's conversation with a lot of exuberance. We know that recent reports coming out of the UK and the US paints a grim picture. Specifically, we're seeing that there's reports of reduction in enrollment, while there's an increase in attrition and an increase in resignations. This means that our conversation has to extend beyond migration, recruitment, and lean toward retention. The way I see it is retention is like oxygen right now to our profession. I know that we'll probably be hearing about some of the strategies advanced by WHO for retention, like having safe, empowering workplace cultures and living wages for nurses. And I'm looking forward to hearing about some of these, because as governments grapple with this looming reality, it is for us nurses to lead the charge in advancing initiatives that will restore health to our profession. I feel like we are bleeding, and it is really time for us to put a tourniquet and do some intensive care. And I'm really happy to see my esteemed colleagues on the panel who will be leading us this afternoon. So UWISON joins the Omega Kappa chapter in this life-changing conversation. It is life-changing because we are needed for universal and global health. So this is mission critical, and I would like to thank and congratulate the leadership of OK chapter for leading from in front. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Monroe. Thank you so much. So just before we get into our introductions and presentations, let me just do a little bit of the usual Zoom etiquette. We ask you to remember to keep your microphones muted until we get to the Q&A and you're acknowledged. We ask you to also keep your cameras off until maybe you're asked and are acknowledged again. We look at bandwidth, and we want to make sure we can hear all our panelists and presenters clearly. We ask everybody in here, please rename yourselves for our record purposes, so we are able to account for your attendance in the event that we will be looking at CE hours. And we also want to say a very warm welcome to our Caribbean Nurses Organization board members who have joined us. I believe I also see the head of school for the Caribbean School of Nursing, Mrs. Antoinette Patterson Bartley. And I also want to say a very warm welcome to all our chapter members who may be joining us from our other 3 chapters, Tau Alpha, Rho Upsilon, and Upsilon Nu. Welcome, welcome, and welcome. So over to you, Mrs. Anderson Johnson, to introduce our first 2 panelists, and then we will ask them to go in that order. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Mrs. Garrix-Lloyd. Welcome again to all our presenters and our participants. I will first introduce Dr. Franklin A. Schaefer. So he has led a varied and progressive nursing career for 60 years and has seamlessly interconnected clinical practice, administration, education, research and consultation, regulation, credentialing, standards and quality, and global collaboration. His career trajectory has improved the lives and image of nurses, whether through academics or work in sectors outside of the mainstream nursing, from travel nurses to migrating and foreign educated nurses and refugees. So after completing a 3-year nursing diploma at Mercer Hospital School of Nursing, where he was the first male graduate, Dr. Schaefer was a trailblazer who went on to earn his baccalaureate degree in nursing from East Stroudsburg University, as well as 2 masters and a doctoral degree in nursing education and administration from Columbia University. So this educational base guided and continued accomplishments. Dr. Schaefer challenged norms in the profession through advocacy and improved the lives and images of nurses working in non-traditional sectors of the field. His path-paving doctoral research on diagnosis-related groups led to seminal work that acknowledged the fiduciary aspects of nursing in healthcare economics and finance. Today, health systems and universities worldwide recognize Dr. Schaefer's premise that nursing is not just an organizational cost, but a source of revenue and value. So for over a decade, Dr. Schaefer has served as the president and the CEO of the CGFNS International. This is the world's leading standard setting and credentials evaluation organization for nurses and allied health professions. So during this tenure, he advanced the organization beyond the United States into 6 new countries and expanded the profession encompassed from 6 to 15. So through the CGFNS, Alliance for Ethical International Recruitment Practices, and the International Center on Nurse Migration, Dr. Schaefer drives effective global and national policy around migration, human resources for health, and ethical recruitment via advocacy, research, and consultation. So he is an international authority on nursing education, standards, migration, credentials, evaluation, and is a frequent speaker at meetings and conferences globally. Dr. Schaefer is also an NGO representative to the UN, WHO, and ICN, and was recently appointed to serve on the board of the Conference of NGOs in Consultative Relationships with the United Nations, which is the leading voice for civil society within the UN system. He's also an author, and he has written extensively and researched on international topics such as global nurse migration trends, sustainable development, global health, and ethical recruitment. He serves on a number of professional boards, professional journals, and editorial boards. And he's also a visiting scholar at the Tor Vergata University in Rome, Italy, and the University of Our Lady of Good Counsel in Tirana, Albania. It is no wonder that Dr. Schaefer will be our first speaker, being so credited with all these credentials. And so we're going to welcome him to speak. Cheryl, let me ask first. Do you want me to go right ahead and introduce, or just one at a time?
You could do Mrs. Warner, and then she will speak right after Dr. Schaefer.
Okay, all right, thank you. So we welcome Dr. Schaefer. Welcome, sir. Mrs. Elnora Patricia Warner hails from the beautiful island of Antigua and Barbuda. She's an RN, a midwife. She's educated in psychology, nursing education, business administration. She also did courses in ophthalmic nursing training. She has been trained in leadership at the Global Nursing Leadership Institute in Geneva. She's had education in cancer prevention screening for nurse educators. In terms of her service and practice, she has provided clinical nursing care at the Halberton Hospital. She was the principal nursing officer for the Ministry of Health, and she has collaborated in many nursing research projects, such as HIV knowledge, patient compliance, patient care satisfaction, and so on. As a nurse educator, she has served as a staff nurse attached to the School of Nursing, teaching in almost all the courses. She's been a principal tutor at the Antigua State College School of Nursing, has coordinated the review of the midwifery nursing curriculum with the PAHO representative, which transitioned it from a 12 to a 15-month program. She has coordinated the midwifery training program at the School of Nursing in Antigua. She was contracted by the government of Antigua post-retirement to continue as a senior lecturer for the diploma and the midwifery nursing program. And she served as an adjunct lecturer to the UE BSCN program. Regionally, she has served as the chair of the regional nursing body. So that's the CARICOM advisory body for the government's chief nurses in the Caribbean region and the ministers of health on all the nursing matters from 2011 to 2016. She also served as chair of the R&B's education subcommittee. She is involved in a number of professional organizations, including the Antigua Barbuda National Nurses Association. She has coordinated seminars and workshops to promote ethical nursing practice, use of conceptual models, theoretical frameworks, and the nursing process, leadership competencies, and creating professional environments, among a number of other areas. She's the editor of Commemorative Magazine and has represented the ABNA on the National HIV/AIDS Committee. Currently, Mrs. Warner serves as president of the Caribbean Nurses Organization. She represents the Caribbean Nurses Organization at the R&B subcommittees and annual general meetings. She's a member of the General Meeting Council of Antigua and Barbuda. She serves on the panel of examiners for the Midwives Board in Antigua and Barbuda and provides guidance for completion of research projects for final year student nurses in the diploma nursing program at the Antigua State College. She's an adjunct lecturer at the UWI Five Island Campus BSN program, and she lectures in the current Ministry of Health Assistive Nursing program. Let us welcome Mrs. Warner. Thank you. Over to Mr. Croker.
Dr. Schaefer, over to you. Thank you. Thank you, Pauline.
Greetings, everybody, and it's really a pleasure to be with you this evening. You know, that introduction was a little too much on me. You could sum it all up and say, you know, he's an old man, he's bald, and he's enjoyed nursing for 60 years. It has been a pleasure for me to be a nurse, and I just think that it's been a life journey. But, you know, as I look around and I see some of your faces and names on the screen, some of your friends that I've known for some time, and I really am happy to see you. But I want to tell you what you've done in putting and organizing this program. I really compliment you very much on it. Now, I'm usually a very talkative person, and as I said earlier, I'll try not to. And I'm asking Cheryl to, as if I run over, to please, as I get close to my time, please let me know, because I enjoy what I do and I have a passion for what I do. But I sense from others that were involved with the introduction so far and gave remarks that you have a similar passion for our professions. I'm going to try to quickly run you through some of our slides, and gotta go back. Okay, migration. Now I'm going to talk about migration. I'm going to talk about sustain and retain quite a bit. And this is a study that we did at the International Center on Nurse Migration, which is a partnership between us, CGFNS, and the International Center of the Council of Nurses. Migration is one of the defining issues of the 21st century. It is now an essential, unstoppable, and potentially beneficial component of every economic and social life of every country of the region. We all know it. And I like to say, we have just begun this migration journey that's about to hit us. We are entering into what I like to say a tsunami. If we look around at what's going on in the world out there and the shortages that countries are having, if you look at the UK, for example, where they're trying to recruit 50,000 foreign educated nurses, this is just the tip of the iceberg of what's going to hit every country. We are not being able to sustain our own workforce. So what do? Return to other countries. But I hope that we will do this in an ethical manner and fashion. And as we do this, pay something back to the country in which they're coming from. Global migration has robustly increased since the turn of the millennium. Look at in 2021, more than 280 million migrants worldwide. 221 in 2010 and 170 million in 2000. In 2021, 82.4 million people were forcibly displaced, representing 30.4 million refugees around the world. Migration may have also slowed down a little bit during the pandemic, but it's expected to increase, but it's going to increase, it has already increased, and it's going to increase more so than before. We know that countries of the world depend on the remittance that nurses send home to their countries once they get into another area. If you look at percentage of foreign trained nurses in the national workforce, and if you've not looked at the national, the State of the World of Nursing report, but I know you have, some of you, look at that, even though it's dated information, it gives us a glimpse or profile on what the nursing profile is and where the nurses are and what they do. If you look at this, most people would say it's the United States or the United Kingdom that is indeed recruiting most nurses. It's not true. New Zealand is the one that attracts most of the nurses. And you can see the amount of Italy right on up. And you can also see the return, the remittance of nurses. And today, more than ever before, countries of the world depend on this remittance as part of their GDP. Profile of migrant nurse. 1 in 8 nurses globally are migrants. 70% of the global nurse migration are female. Average age of the nurse migrant in the United States is 28 years old. Think about it. The lifetime or the career or the number of years in which they're going to work versus the aging population that we have here in the United States right now. So you're looking at it from several perspectives. You're getting a younger, better educated, maybe not, but most of the people who are coming in, many of them have their baccalaureate degree, and many of them, as soon as they get here, they go on for their master's and their doctorate. So, and just look at the number of years of service you're going to get. Now, I'm not saying that we should get involved with international nurse recruitment. I don't favor it one way or another. I'm neutral on it, and we at CGFNS are immigration neutral, and we must maintain that position. Typically assigned to working hard to fill positions in hospitals, night and weekend shifts. They provide approximately 33 years of service. Today, more than ever, countries are going to rely on internationally educated nurses to fill their shortages. The individual right to migrate versus protecting the health systems of the typical sending countries, brain drain versus brain gain, ensuring ethical international recruitment practices, and we must do that. We're right now involved with the WHO's bilateral agreement on ethical recruitment of nurses in different countries of the world. And some of the countries in your region, as well as in South America, they are forming bilateral agreements to protect each other and make sure that it's a give and take on each side, ensuring a competent workforce, competency-based credentials, evaluation for patient safety, care beyond borders. I think that the day is going to come very soon, and I'm talking to two countries right now, where you're going to find mutual agreement across borders, across the water. You might have mutual agreements, say New Zealand, you might have with the United States or whatever, and where you're recognizing the national curriculum of the country, the quality framework of the country, the licensure exam, and the blueprint for all of these and how they match up, and so that you don't put nurses through a lot of unnecessary regulation. I believe that it should be right fit for the purpose of regulation. You can look at the U.S. nursing workforce. Well, I know most about the United States because I live and work in the United States. I am very, very global in my orientation. Foreign educated nurses make up approximately 15% of the U.S. nursing workforce. Women represent 83% of the foreign educated nurses in the U.S. If you look at where they're coming from, you will find the Philippines, 50%, India, 9%, Jamaica, 5%. And if you look over here, you'll see FENs are concentrated in California, New York, Florida, Texas, and New Jersey. They either go where they have a family member or a friend, or the weather attracts them. Jamaican nursing workforce. Now, I need not tell you about this, but I thought whenever you speak to an audience, you should make sure you bring something in that they know and that you can integrate this into our thinking. Around 500 Jamaican nurses graduate per year. 4,500 approximately work in Jamaica public health system, a handful or more in private sector. Around one registered nurse per 1,000 population. Some recruitment into Jamaica nurse retention salaries, healthcare, salary, systems, qualms, and patient load. You know, you're not unique to Jamaican nurses. This is a problem in all areas of nursing, in all healthcare systems. Most emigrate to the US, UK, Britain, and Canada. And I hope that there are discussions among and across that, you know, we are going to benefit each other as we go through this, not just one take and the other drain. While the money is good for remuneration, there's still the rest of the population to take care of in your hospitals and your healthcare facilities. This is just a slice of 16 US hospital states with critical shortages in at least 25% of their hospitals, and that's growing. COVID at the Global Migration Nurse Force, 22 briefed by International Center. If you've not seen that, this is our Sustain and Retain in 2022, and I'll make sure that I'll send a copy so it is distributed widely to each of you. And this was written last year, so it does capture the countries of the world and what's going on with nursing in their countries and during the COVID. The nursing workforce has faced unprecedented challenges. 2022 marks no change in the continuing pressure on individual nurses and the global workforce. This brief provides global snapshot assessment of how pandemic is impacting the nursing workforce, urgent action agenda, and global workforce plan for 2022 and beyond. I applaud Dr. When she was saying about we need a tourniquet, we need to stop this hemorrhage. Every one of those remarks that you made and the importance of the time we're working in and the urgency of it could not have been said plainer. Thank you very, very much. COVID-19 and its impact on the nurse supply. The global nursing workforce was 28 million. Pre-pandemic had a shortage of 5.9 million nurses. The pandemic has exacerbated it, and we anticipate by 2030 there will be a shortage of 13 million. Think of this, my friends. That is only 8 years away, if that, 7.5 years away. 13 million. We're all going to feel it. I really am very concerned about it because I'm getting older and I'm going to need that care. Healthcare systems were fragile before the pandemic, but now the situation is deteriorating into a global crisis. Historically, in times of crisis, countries and health systems have looked to foreign educated nurses. You know, we could go on about what does it take to turn this around. But if governments would listen to nurses, just really listen to us, we could fix this problem. We don't ask for much. We want to be able to deliver the care that we feel is necessary for high quality care. And we want to make sure that we receive the kind of remuneration that's appropriate. But we also want to work in an environment that is safe, that allows us to have the tools and the techniques to apply our science to the care delivery. We're not asking for anything that the citizens of our countries shouldn't ask for and should get. Employers have a responsibility for ensuring an adequate, highly skilled workforce, as it is in their best interest and the patients that they serve. Employers and organizations must provide supportive conditions, and policy interventions should focus on improved work environments. Again, if you look at the Jamaican nurses and why they're immigrant, you can see here adequate staffing levels, attractive working conditions, flexible pay, and career opportunities. Is that too much to ask? Is it really too much? How about other professions? Are they asking much different than what we're asking? Most of what we're asking for is going to permit us to be a better care provider and with a higher morale and with greater satisfaction, which does indeed reflect in our care delivery. Cumulative impact of nurses leaving the profession. Pre-pandemic, the nursing workforce is 28 million. Pre-existing nursing shortage, I've already covered this for each 1% who leave the profession, there is a loss of 280,000 nurses, 1%. So 4% would be 1 million fewer nurses. You can see what's going to happen as we look at the years out. Action agenda and plan for 2022. You know, I could go on and say, we need this, we need this, we need this. But you all know what it's going to take to turn this around. One, government must listen to us. We must get at the policy table. And when we're at the policy table, we must know what we're talking about, and we must have a plan of action. I believe that each country should have its own agenda for healthcare delivery with nursing at the center of it. And that we make sure that each and every government of the world knows this agenda because it's in their best interest. Let me tell you something. Every country, their asset is healthcare. Who delivers the healthcare? It's their people. I should say the asset of every country is its people, its population. But most importantly, it's the health of those individuals. You want a healthy population. You don't want an ill. So who's going to help you the most? It's the nursing population. It's the nurses of the world. So we need effective and coordinated policy responses at national and international levels, immediate and appropriate actions to meet urgent challenges, and long-term vision plan for the global nursing workforce. Recommendations at the national level is act, plan. So you want a commitment to safe staffing. You want a commitment to make sure all of our people are vaccinated and all of the safety precautions are provided for them so they can deliver the care that's necessary. You want to conduct regularly nursing workforce impact assessments. Every hospital, every healthcare area should be looking at what's the impact of the nursing workforce. How's this going to affect us? Plan reviewing expanding the capacity of domestic nurse education. I was a little taken back when I heard you say before that your education admissions is falling down, and where when we talk to other countries around the world, including the United States, we are up. Our entrance into nursing education is up. And what concerns me is also once they graduate, many of the nurses only last 6 months. So we have to ask why. Why? Are we preparing our nurses in an educational system that prepares them for an unrealistic world in which they're going to graduate and practice in, so that when they do graduate, they might be getting frustrated, or preparing them from the real world or an unreal world? Remember a book by the name by someone by the name of the book was called Reality Shock by Marlene Kramer. If you've not read that, I would encourage you to do it. It's the reality shock that hits new nurses. Are they ready for it? Plan, improve the retention of nurses and attractiveness of nursing as a career. I believe, as I say here at work, we might not be able to pay people the kind of salaries that other people are paying, but what we're giving them is the opportunity to make a difference in other people's lives, to help those who are less fortunate to have a better career. You are entering people's lives and you can help them have a better life. When you handle a piece of paper at on our desk, that's not just a piece of paper. That's a life that you're influencing. So treat it that way. Well, I think we as nurses are very fortunate. We enter people's lives when they're most vulnerable. They trust us with their life. I hope that we can really appreciate all of what they trust in us. We would be better suited to do it if we had the right tools, the right environment, the right pay, and a voice in what's going on in our profession and our government, because we're committed to improving the quality of life our people of our nation. We're not doing it just for nursing. And I think sometimes people misunderstand that the nurses are out there pushing and pushing. If they really look at what's the underpinning reason for this, we want to provide the quality of healthcare that we're educated to do. So we wanted this commitment to supporting regular and systemic nursing workforce impact statement assessments, as I said earlier. Regularly analyze nursing admissions, recruitment, retention, and graduation students. Listen to the nurses. There is not that much new under the sun. There is not that much new. We might have new technology. We might have the digital natives. We might have all these other things. But the basic center of who we are and what we do has not changed that much. And the basic needs have not changed that much. Commitment to
Just a minute, Dr. Schaefer. 1
Okay.
minute.
Okay, commitment to investing in the nursing workforce sustainability to small states, low-income states, and fragile states most vulnerable to nurse outflow and impacted pandemic. Remember this, through the mountain, Walt Disney said this, through the mountain, though the mountains divide us and the oceans are wide, it's a small world after all. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Schaefer. It is indeed a small world after all. All right. So we ask everybody, note your questions if you have your questions. And so we will get to the Q&A section just in case there's something you need to ask, or bring it to the discussion when we get to the breakout rooms. So in moving along, I will say thank you so much, Dr. Schaefer and Mrs. Warner. Are you ready to go ahead? Do you want to share screen, or would you like me to go ahead and share screen?
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Madam President Garrix and learned colleagues on the panel, my esteemed colleagues on the executive board of the Caribbean Nurses Organization, and of course, members of the Omega Kappa chapter of the Sigma Theta. So it's really a great privilege once again, and to be participating in this forum. And I want to thank you very much for your invitation to do so. Yes, I would like to share screen. Sorry, I did send the email with the presentation, so I don't know if you have it there, just in case.
I do have it, Mrs. Warner.
Okay.
So let me see if we can get it going. All right.
Okay.
Are you able to see?
Yes.
All right.
So you have it in the
all right.
slideshow? Yes. So as was requested, I'm asked to share the NNA's perspective, current retention strategies in use, non-existent and recommended. In my presentation, I just want to highlight the findings of the World Bank report. As we know that this migration of nurses is not a new phenomenon. It's happening over a protracted period of time, and it affects each of the territories, maybe differently, but in many ways, I have to say, we see common issues arising from this phenomenon. The World Bank, and in collaboration with UN, PAHO, and PAHO, carried out a study to look at this phenomena and made certain recommendations. I just want to highlight a few of the reports. Can I go to the next slide, please? So in Kingston, Jamaica, March 2nd, 2010, nursing, the report of the RN stated that The shortages across the English-speaking Caribbean limit access and quality of health services and affect the region's competitiveness, says the new World Bank report. According to the nurse, labor, and education markets in the English-speaking CARICOM countries, issues and options for reform. It cited that the region is facing a rapidly growing shortage of nurses as demand for quality healthcare increases due to an aging population and notably a high numbers of nurses emigrate drawn by higher paying jobs in Canada, the UK, and the US. Next slide. These shortages have tangible impacts that may compromise the ability of English-speaking CARICOM countries to meet their key healthcare service needs, especially in the areas of disease prevention and care. In addition, the shortage of highly trained nurses reduces the capacity of countries to offer quality healthcare at a time when Caribbean countries aim to attract businesses and retirees as an important pillar of growth. Next slide. The report estimates that there are 7,800 nurses working in the English-speaking CARICOM, or 1.25 nurses per 1,000 people. And in addition, demand for nurses exceeds their supply throughout the region. 3,300 or 30% of all positions in the sector were vacant at the time of the study. So we see how that report, the World Bank report, highlights the real deficit in nurses, the nursing workforce at the time. Nurses are the bedrock of highly functioning health systems in all countries, said Evangeline Javier, Sector Director for Human Development in the World Bank's Latin American and Caribbean region. And the research suggested English-speaking countries in the Caribbean must adopt policies that aim to train more and at the same time retain quality nurses. And predicting that the demand for nurses in the English-speaking Caribbean will increase due to the health needs of the aging population. On the current education and labor market conditions, however, the supply will slightly decrease. And I believe this is what we're realizing currently. The World Bank expects that unmet demand for nurses will more than triple during the next 15 years from the 3,300 nurses in 2006 to 10,700 nurses in 2025. Of course, more research will be needed to validate that this current situation has been attained. At the same time, data suggests that the number of English-speaking CARICOM trained nurses working in Canada, the UK, and the US is about 21,500. That is 3 times higher than the workforce in the English-speaking CARICOM. Between 2002 and 2006, more than 1,800 nurses left the region to work abroad. And analysis indicates that the recent decline in the immigration at the time is the result of changes in immigration policies abroad, rather than lessened interest in working abroad by the nurses. The World Bank report also points to high demand for nurse education, but low completion rates of 55% as a challenge and opportunity in tackling nurse shortages. And very notably, that having more nurse tutors available, maximizing completion rates, and accepting more students into programs would significantly bolster the number of new nurses entering the health system. I just want to remain focused a little on that last point, which I have put in bold, because in my interaction as the CNO president, I have noted two incidents in our Caribbean territories where I have seen and witnessed and been where countries, nurse tutors in two countries have reached out for representation with the way they have been treated when their programs are being transitioned from the diploma program in community colleges um, to higher institutions, universities, and where there, in my opinion, um, was uh, I would say, not a very favorable approach to integrate and to utilize nurse lecturers or nurse tutors who were already teaching in the in diploma programs. And in my opinion, there were a policy adopted, a policy of exclusion rather than inclusion, when at this time we should be maximizing and or optimizing the use of our and facilitating the use of our very valuable human resource, nurse human resource, in the category of nurse tutors. Next, next slide. Suggested incentives or retention strategies that were postured. Yeah, you have in the managed migration, a Caribbean approach to addressing. In 2007, there's where it was postulated there's need to see the government of the region, dubbed the donor countries, actively manage the migration of nurses by putting in place certain mitigating measures. The World Bank report 2012 towards a regional strategy to strengthen the nurse workforce of the English-speaking CARICOM. Next slide. So some of the strategies in a managed migration plan that was proposed to include: one, more opportunities for upward and lateral mobility, increased salary and reclassification of nurses into their rightful grade on the establishment, more training opportunities that are recognized and credentialed, recognition, respect of nurses at leadership levels, etc. Voice at the policy decision-making table, negotiating with recipient countries like the UK, USA, Canada, mainly to make some investment in training and so on, in infrastructure in the donor countries. The next slide, please.
5 minutes, Mrs. Warner.
Yes, yes. Next slide. Proposal of multilateral treaties, codes of practice, and a memorandum of understanding. The next slide. So, and also a Caribbean roadmap for human health resources was suggested, coming out of the global nursing partners such as IC and the Nursing Now campaign, etc., calling for greater investment in nursing and midwifery, in leadership development, nurses training and education, and implementing working conditions, greater investment in structures and systems that enhance nurses and midwives' contribution to service delivery. It is believed that these investments would boost nurses' morale, nurses' productivity, and ultimately boost nurses' retention. Next slide. Also, a strategy that I encountered in my literature search that could prove to be interested, and I want to introduce, or I don't know if anybody from the audience has heard of it, but they could read about it. Providing healthcare workers with opportunities to migrate can increase education and supply of medical workers in origin countries. And this is the source, provided here. That's something that could be looked at, because when we think of the human complexity, and we can ask the question, can we really stop migration of nurses? So what opportunities then can we get out of the nurses migrating, and rather than looking at it as a brain drain, looking at it from a perspective of a brain gain. Next slide. Okay, just going back up to the next slide. So I did a quick survey. Please, it's just what you refer to as a quick and dirty study. And where I sampled 25% of the NNA, member NNA countries, and asked some specific questions. And the questions are outlined, but I'll just go down in the interest of time to look at what the result shows. So as I said, the 6 countries responded, which constitute 25% of the member territories of CNO. And in terms of reporting rate of migration, if we look at here, these are the countries that responded, Antigua and Barbuda 40. In one instance, the data was unknown. However, we see a range of 20 to 40%. Next slide. So among the countries, it's trending at 20 to 40% migration rate over 2018 to 2022. And we of note, in many cases, you're not just losing an RN, but an RN midwife, because many of our nurses are trained as midwives also. And 5 of the 6 countries samples reported that most of the nurses migrating were from the hospitals or the institutions rather than the public health system. Although one country said that it was equally between the hospital setting and the community clinics in the primary health care. The recipient, I asked them to rank the countries, the recipient countries, in terms of countries most migrated to, where nurses most migrated to. And the USA, of course, is shown a high first in the ranking, where you have 3 countries identified as the #1 country, UK, and of course, 1 country reported that other Caribbean territories. And then the second, you had the USA ranking at the top again. So the USA we see is one of our larger, recipient countries. So
right.
I have here on the table, okay?
All right.
And the next slide.
How many more, Mrs. Warner? We're at the 15 minutes.
Oh, okay. Well, basically, the other slides was just bringing up some examples of the reasons that were given by the countries in terms of how reasons nurses reported that for them migrating. Because if we are going to build strategies, that we have to identify what are some of the reasons that they have that are for nurses migrating, and also the other side spoke to the some of the strategies that are currently implemented, that the countries reported that are being implemented in order to mitigate the impact of migration.
All right. So we won't lose those, Mrs. Warner, but when we come back for our question and answer, we will definitely be looking at that, because I'm sure you'll be able to share the reasons when you get to the breakout room as well.
Okay.
So we won't lose it. So just keep that train of thought, and we thank you so much. And I will ask our next person to introduce or other two panelists who will also need to speak. Thank you very much, Mrs. Warner. So I want to say at this time, just a quick reminder, colleagues, if you're in the room, can you please go ahead and rename yourselves? There is a link for you to complete for registration for CE hours. Be reminded, we can't give CE hours to iPhones and Samsungs and persons with single names. So please rename yourselves and complete the registration. All right. So as we move along, our other two panelists, Mrs. Gillian Mason Quarry and Dr. Roy Thompson, I will ask Mr. Croker to go ahead and introduce them quickly so that they are able to share with us before we get to the breakout rooms. I want to, just before he comes on, say a very warm welcome. I noticed that we have Trinidad and Tobago Nurses Association, or Deputy Registrar from our Nursing Council here in Jamaica. And I see the flags going up in the chat. Keep them coming so we can know what countries you are joining us from, or master students. And I want to say a special welcome also to my namesake, Michelle Ralston, who's joining us from Downstate University. She's the Chief Nursing Officer there. Over to you, Mr. Croker.
Hello, everyone. This afternoon, I'll be introducing two persons to you. I'll start with Mrs. Gillian Mason Quarry. Mrs. Quarry started her nursing career in 1990 at the Kingston School of Nursing. That was when they were doing the 2+1 program. So she completed a certificate in general nursing there and was placed at Noel Holmes Hospital in Hanover as a staff nurse. She later transferred to Kingston Public Hospital as a staff nurse, and she became active in the activities of the Nurses Association. She dabbled a little bit in the hospitality industry, but did not too enjoy it, although she did make her mark in that aspect of healthcare delivery by being a member of the hazard analysis and critical control team. Mrs. Quarry, in 1996, went back to Hanover and joined the health department of that parish, and shortly after went to do her midwifery at the Victoria Jubilee Hospital School for Midwifery. She was not satisfied with just doing that. She continued to work in Hanover as a specialist nurse, but went on to the University of Technology, and where she pursued her bachelor's degree in public health nursing. There she gained first-class honors in that degree. She went on to further elevate herself by completing a certificate in education at the Ministry of Health in Service Education Unit. And shortly after that, in 2013, she was placed at Westmoreland as a senior public health nurse, responsible for maternity and child services. She went on to obtain a master's degree in health administration at the University of Technology. And this is what she did online after work. All right. So she continued working and completed this master's degree. And subsequent to that, she acted as regional nursing supervisor in the Western Regional Health Authority. She then applied to and was appointed the position of Director of Nursing Services at the hospital that she started out as a nurse, Noel Holmes Hospital. And at that hospital, she was able to make a great impact in turning around a lot of the things that occurred in the hospital there. Mrs. Quarry was Vice President of the NHA for 3 years runner-up NAJ LASCO Nurse of the Year twice. She received honors in Hanover, at schools in Hanover, at a hospital in Hanover, the Nurses Association of Jamaica. Presently, she serves as the Deputy Chief Nurse in the Ministry of Health and Wellness and chairs the National Nursing Standards Committee. She's an active member of the St. Gabriel's Roman Catholic Church and served as one of the facilitators and coordinators of the Homework Center. She's married with 2 adult children and enjoys staycations and vacations. She leaves us with a quote. And this quote is from Henry Ford, which says, "If everyone is moving forward together, success takes care of itself." Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mrs. Jillian Mason Quarry. I now go on to Dr. Roy Anthony Thompson. Dr. Thompson was born and raised in Jamaica and is presently a postdoctoral fellow at the University of Missouri. His program of research is focused on improving the care of older adults and their health-related outcomes. He looks also at health policies, health equity, and strengthening long-term care. He earned his bachelor's degree with first-class honors summa cum laude in 2019 and a master's degree in advanced nursing in 2013 from the University of the West Indies School of Nursing. Prior to graduation, he worked as a registered nurse. This is prior to the master's graduation. He worked as a registered nurse in the post-anesthetic care unit, intensive care unit. And he also lectured at the University of the West Indies. Dr. Thompson earned his doctorate at the Duke University School of Nursing and the Global Health Doctoral Certificate from the Duke Global Health Institute. He focused on, he employed both quantitative and qualitative methods in doing research on employment related to foreign educated nurses versus US educated nurses. He received a Teaching of Equity Fellowship from the Duke School of Nursing. And he's a subject matter expert in the US, on the US National Commission to address racism in nursing. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Dr. Roy Anthony Thompson.
All right, over to you, Mrs. Mason Quarry, and then Dr. Thompson. Thank you, Desmond.
Thank you, Madam Chair. President, Mrs. Cheryl Garrix-Lloyd. Thank you, Mr. Croker, for that introduction. I'd like to acknowledge Dr. Franklin Schaefer and President of CNO, Mrs. Eleanor Warner, for setting the stage for my presentation. I don't have a lot of time, so I'm happy that they have set the background for this session today. I'd like to acknowledge the President of the Nurses Association of Jamaica, the representatives and presidents of all national nurses associations. I'd like to acknowledge Mrs. Dawn Monroe, Head of School, UWISON, Mrs. Antoinette Pattison Bartley, Head of School, Caribbean School of Nursing. All my colleagues online, whether you're in Jamaica or wherever you're from in the region, I'd like to say a pleasant good afternoon to you, or good evening. I'd like to use the opportunity to apologize to Mrs. Patricia Ingram Martin, our chief nurse, who is unavoidably absent, and I'll try my best to represent the Nursing and Midwifery Services Unit, the Ministry of Health and Wellness, through this presentation, looking at the global nursing shortage, Jamaica's perspective. All right, Mrs. Garrick Lloyd, my screen is not moving now. Let me. I'm not sure what is happening, Madam Chair.
I'm not sure, but we are seeing your title slide. So maybe you could talk in the interim until the slide catches up.
Okay. All right. So we are presently, I'm sorry, speaking to, we're looking at three areas: the background, the situation in Jamaica, and the retention strategies. And so for the background, Jamaica's population is approximately 2.9 million, as projected by our Statistical Institute, and that's for 2020. 25% of our population is 0 to 14 years, 10% are over 65 years. Average life expectancy, 75 years, and the five leading cause of death are stroke, diabetes mellitus, coronary heart disease, violence, and prostate cancer. Nurses and midwives account for 71% of the technical human resource in the public health sector. And that's according to the World Health Organization State of the World Nursing Report, Jamaica's profile for 2020. Nurses and midwives in Jamaica have contributed significantly to the achievement of the priority areas and targets of the Ministry of Health and Wellness, Jamaica. Due to the continuous separation of nurses and midwives from the public health sector, significant pressure is placed on the healthcare delivery system to meet the health needs of the population. I am sorry that you're not seeing my slide. I have some tables, and so I'll have to speak to them. Separation in Jamaica in 2020, we have from our secondary healthcare services, we had 544 separations. From our primary healthcare services, we had 33, totaling 587, which is approximately 10% of the over 5,000 persons who are were actually employed in our workforce at the end of 2021. The actual number employed at the end of 2021 was 5,328. And so separation accounted for approximately 10% of that number for 2021. Migration of nurses. The Ministry of Health and Wellness and the Nursing Council of Jamaica are unable to determine the actual number of nurses who have migrated, as this information is difficult to obtain. While migration is difficult to quantify, the Nursing Council of Jamaica has indicated that since April of 2016 to November 2021, there were 4,231 requests for professional transcripts from international entities that were received and processed. This is usually indicative of the intent to migrate. All categories of nurses separated from the public service. However, specialist nurses were among the most sought after group by recruiters. All right, so of the 4,231 transcripts that were processed by the Nursing Council for the period. For the United States, 3,355, for Canada, 306, UK, 290, Cayman, 185, Bermuda, 44, Turks and Caicos, 18, BVI, 14, Bahamas, 13, Trinidad and Tobago, 2, Africa, 2, Philippines, 1, and Ireland, 1. So our nurses were requesting transcripts for agencies all over the world. Retention strategies. Nurse retention focuses on preventing nurse turnover and keeping nurses in an organization's employment. So for years, there have been many strategies that have been employed. Some strategies we have revamped over the years based on the outcomes from those strategies. And very important is providing opportunities for professional development through training and scholarships. And this is usually accompanied by bonding. In earlier years, this worked as a retention strategies because majority of nurses would complete, or all nurses would have completed their bonding period and remained in service. What we have found recently is that nurses, though bonded, would still leave. They would either personally pay the bonding fees or their recruiters would pay for them. There was reclassification that looked at the nursing grades and levels and salaries, and that in itself had caused some attrition due to anomalies that existed through reclassification. There were strategies included prioritization of nurses for housing units and lots. And that also, there was a challenge as some nurses were unable to qualify for the mortgages to acquire these housing units and lots. There is also task sharing and task shifting was used to reduce the workload of nurses in some non-technical areas. And this had seen where there were jobs had to be reclassified and redefined to include these new tasks.
2 minutes, Mrs. Mason Quarry.
Yes.
2 minutes.
Okay. All right. So we continue to look at the way forward. And one of that is we are in the process of developing the first strategic plan for nursing and midwifery services in Jamaica. And that is in collaboration with the PAHO Collaborating Center at the University of the West Indies School of Nursing. The employers must provide nurses with a living wage. They must provide opportunities for professional development, especially in those areas where we have scarcity in manpowers, especially in for nurse educators. There must be a formal system to recognize excellence in service, opportunities to share information and the best practices. We must use a shared governance model where nurses can assist in the decision-making process and have their input. We must modernize the work environment by providing equipment and supplies that will enable best outcomes for patients and reduce workload of nurses. Provide safe and aesthetically pleasing working environment with the basic amenities, and leadership must offer care and support to team members. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we are.
I'm happy to hear, because the last thing I'd like to say is that nurses and midwives play a central role in enabling societies to achieve universal health coverage. Hiring, training, and retaining them is a key building block to availability, accessibility, acceptability,
affordability, and quality of care in line with the International Labour Organization Social Protection Floor Recommendation number 202 of 2012, and that is to prevent poverty and financial hardship while acquiring health care. Nurses will always migrate, and so we must continue to train nurses, offer opportunities for professional development, provide motivation through opportunities to meet their basic needs, and recognize excellence, provide the support required as much as possible, and a work environment that does not add burden to the duties of the nurse. Thank you all for listening, and thank you for all you do. Over to you,
Thank
Madam
you so
Chair.
much, Mrs. Mason Corey. Thank you. Please, we ask you to note your questions and bring them to the breakout rooms, or when we come back, right over to you, Dr. Thompson.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Garrix Lloyd. Let me share my screen. Okay, sharing my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes, we are seeing it and we're hearing you.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Roy Thompson, a proud graduate of the US School of Nursing. I have a very difficult task of following my presenters, but as I said, last but definitely not least, currently I'm a postdoctoral fellow at the University of Missouri, and so I want to acknowledge my colleagues from University of Missouri, my colleagues from Jamaica, and my colleagues from Duke, and my family members who are watching this presentation. I hope you're all awake and not asleep. I am going to talk on an issue that I'm very, very passionate about: Caribbean nurse migration, the state of the science, and retention strategies. Now, my presentation is coming from the lens of a nurse researcher and a nurse scientist. And so the purpose is really to deepen our understanding of Caribbean nurse migration and how does that impact our health systems and our nurses. I try not to repeat anything that our presenters presented earlier, so bear with me. So to walk you through, I really want to give a synthesis of the state of the science of studies related to Caribbean nurse migration, look at some of the culturally appropriate RN retention strategies, and I'll try not to repeat those that were mentioned before, and to explore some of the opportunities for growth, because we need our nurse scientists in the Caribbean to study this phenomenon. Now, earlier, we were told that migration is not a new RN migration is not a new phenomenon, and it is not. Nurses have been migrating since the 1800s, when we would have nurses migrate to the UK, the US, Netherlands, and Canada to train as sister tutors and to come back and to train our local nurses. Now, migration is at critical levels, and majority of the nurses who are migrating are our senior nurses, like our ICU nurses or nurses who have extensive years of experience. Now, nurse migration is also part and parcel of the Caribbean people's experience. People from the Caribbean have been migrating historically to the US, Canada, and other English-speaking high-income countries. But RN migration in the region has now resulted in inequitable distribution of nurses, in high-income countries and in low-income countries. All right. But we don't have a synthesis of the literature on Caribbean nurse migration. So I'm just going to do a bit of synthesis of the literature. I did an integrative review that was recently published in a journal with an impact factor of 7, where I looked at international nurse migration and how it impacted long-term care in the US. And so I'm going to give you a summary of the studies that pertain to the Caribbean region. And so I looked at the scientific databases and our usual organizations like PAHO that provide us with technical, advice regarding health issues. I found 5 empirical studies. Well, one is a policy paper, and we have 3 quantitative studies. One is a multi-method study. Now, I also weighed the evidence using a tool called Gough's Weight of Evidence Framework, and of the 5 studies, 4 of them were high quality papers. Now, the factors shaping migration are consistent, and I don't need to go back over them, but I do want to say something about contextual factors. There was one study also that looked at retention factors, and this is critical if we're thinking about retention strategies. So some of the nurses who are most likely to stay back in the region, and this is a study from Guyana, stayed back because we have very stable geographical climate. The Caribbean has stable democracies, family obligation, and a sense of duty to the region. Now, I do want to say something about contextual factors because oftentimes we focus on the socioeconomics, but there are contextual factors that moderate migration. For example, there are political factors. So Caribbean nurses tend to migrate to countries where we have a history of colonial ties with. So most of our Caribbean nurses are migrated to the UK historically, but now we see that they're more migrating to the US and Canada where we have strong diplomatic ties. Now, there are also social factors and cultural issues. For example, our nursing culture is similar to the USA and Canada, and so that makes it easier for nurses in the region to migrate to these high income countries. You have to look at geography as well. It's much, much easier to migrate to the US and Canada because we are basically in their backyard, so to speak. All right. Now, when I talk about similarity in nursing culture as well, we are oftentimes trained using the NANDA, and that's the framework in which oftentimes we use to train our nurses and to roll out our nursing interventions and our assessment. Now, our colleagues earlier have talked about the different levels of impact, the micro level impact at the ward level, the meso level impact. We have poorer health outcomes, and there's country level and regional level impact too, such as lower immunization. There's economic losses when nurses migrate. There's the loss of the middle class. So there's loss of taxes being collected from middle class nurses who have migrated. I'm also presenting you a conceptual model of Caribbean nurse migration that I developed some time ago. And this is really synthesizing some of my thinking about how the factors of bearing down on nurse migration interact. Now, historically, they use the push and pull theory by Lee from 1966, and it really presents migration in this very linear phenomena. And I disagree. I challenge that. I submit that migration is really more complex and has a set of interwoven factors. And so starting from the left, I have contextual factors which are driving socioeconomic factors, workplace characteristics, and it's also impacting retention factors. And all these factors combined contributes to high migration intention. And this is borne out by the literature. And high migration intention results in actual nurse migration. There's a strong correlation. And of course, there's destination country impact. For example, I did a study where I looked at how migration impacted nurses in the US. They experienced challenges such as racism because they're migrating into a pluralistic society. There are cultural barriers, there are language issues because we have different accents. And of course, there are also Caribbean country impact. And we all know what the impact is when our nurses leave. Now, based on the literature, I'm just going to propose some micro level, meso level, and macro level strategies, and I won't go into all of these. But one of the issues that is evident across the literature is that nurses migrate because the units on which they work are oftentimes hostile. They're not a part of decision making. Sometimes nurses are not promoted because the nurse manager refuses to send them to do their courses. Nurses have to hide when they're trying to go to school because if sister finds out, they may change the shift. Those things have to stop. Also, the crime rate in Jamaica is very high, and the literature suggests that nurses migrate because of high crime as well. You have to give fair clinical assessment and administrative assessment. You cannot have a senior nurse who is always working in charge and they're not being promoted to the nurse manager. All right? this issue of just having 2 nurses on night duty versus 4 or 5 on day duty, that does not make any sense. And it's not supported by, it's not evidence-based practice. But hospitals are trying to save money, and so they're willing to cut down nurse staffing. There are also strategies such as autonomous scheduling. So nurses can propose which days and times they can work. So they feel like they are a part of, their decision to work the days and times they want to, based on their needs, based on their families. Most nurses are females. Most times they have families, and the research shows that nurses are the breadwinners, typically the breadwinners of their families.
2
When we
minutes,
talk about
Dr. Thompson.
Yes, I'm okay. Let me hurry up. So I'm looking now at meso-level strategies. Now we have to think about or widen our gaze on how it is that we deliver nursing care. Instead of NANDA, maybe we can think about the ICNP, which is the International Classification of Nursing Practice, NIC and NOC, different ways of practicing nursing care. So we're not just modeling what exists in the US. Hospitals too have to adopt a complex system organizational charge. This doctor-centric model needs to change because nurses are critical in decision-making. Now, they already spoke about the managed migration program, so I won't get into that. But there is a point that needs to be made. There needs to be a removal of the CNO's position from under the CMO. Nurses are professionals, and the position when it was first advertised was equal to the CMOs. So we have to have the CNO equal to the doctor so that whoever is in that position pushes the nursing agenda. The WHO Code of Practice on the Recruitment of Health Professionals proposes at the global level strategies to retain nurses. But this policy is not legally binding. So high income countries don't necessarily have to stick to those recommendations. And very quickly, we have to develop the capacity for nurses in the Caribbean or faculty to conduct nursing research on migration issues. We cannot have the nurse faculty conducting clinical exams, working in the labs, and also expecting them to produce nursing research. Also, we have to reinstate the Caribbean Journal of Nursing and Midwifery and the Jamaican Nurse so that we can disseminate findings on nursing workforce issues in the region. And the final point I'll make is that we have an opportunity to collaborate with international institutions that study nursing workforce migrations, places such as UPenn, NYU, UCSF, University of Toronto, and Alberta. We have to build collaboration with other nurse scientists to build our capacity to address this issue. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak, and I look forward to our breakout session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thompson. Thank you very much. I see a comment in the chat. I had to just share that one. Somebody would shake your hand if you weren't so far away. So maybe you get a virtual handshake.
I'll do a virtual handshake.
All right. So colleagues, thank you for listening so far. We've had Dr. Schaefer, Mrs. Warner, Mrs. Mason Quarry, and Dr. Thompson, who've shared with us all of the things that some of it we've known, some of it we've heard. We've gotten more depth. We've heard from the region. We've heard internationally. We've heard it brought down to Jamaica. So as we are going to be separating, I want to remind us that now we are going to be heading into our 3 breakout sessions. Before we go, you'll quickly hear the persons who are going to be leading. And I just want to say, just get a little glimpse of who they are, and there are going to be 3 rooms. So there's 1 room for nursing education and retention, 1 for nursing practice and retention, and 1 for nursing research and retention. We're giving you the option to quickly join the breakout room that you would like to be a part of. The breakout room will be just 15 minutes because we're a little behind. There will be the 2 co-leads, and we say, bring your conversations. When we come back, so we're able to say from each of these rooms, this is what we got. All right. So I'm creating 3 rooms, and I'm saying to you, you'll be able to select. Now, I want you to listen carefully. We have for nursing practice, we will be having Dr. Schaefer, who you've already been introduced to. He is the head CEO and president of CGFNS, and he will be joined by Dr. Jacqueline Witter. She is our Omega Kappa member in New York. Let me just quickly share with you. Dr. Witter is Jamaican, but she has migrated and she's currently employed to the St. Barnabas Health Systems in the Bronx, New York. She's the vice president for nursing quality and nursing informatics. She also served as an adjunct professor at Lehman College in the graduate nursing program, and her extensive nursing experiences spans more than 25 years. She's a strong advocate for improvement of internal and external relationships to improve satisfaction among patients and their family members. But she's also a strong advocate for internal and external professional relationships and opportunities for her staff so that there's a climate of excellence. She has received in her 25 years numerous awards for nursing leadership, education, and research. And she's also a lifelong mentor because she's always proud to give back to her nursing profession. So for those persons who will be joining the nursing nursing practice and retention, that will be led by Dr. Schaefer and Dr. Witter. For those persons who will be joining the nursing research breakout room, that will be led by Dr. Jacinta Lindo and Dr. Roy Thompson. So let me just tell you quickly about Dr. Lindo, if you don't know about her just yet. She's currently an associate professor at the University of Central Florida in the USA, and she has a MSc in nursing education and a PhD in public health from UWI Mona. She is passionate about building research capacity among nurses in the Caribbean, and she's known for creating collaborative, supportive learning environments. She has co-authored over 30 peer-reviewed articles and has presented over 73 abstracts at national and international conferences, and she just completed, in 2021, 2022, her Fulbright scholarship. She was at the University of the Bahamas. So that's Dr. Lindo, and she'll be joined by Dr. Thompson in the breakout room that will be looking at nursing research. I will ask our Assistant Treasurer, Mrs. Sandra Morris, to quickly tell us about Dr. Sandra Russo and Mrs. Sandra Chisholm Ford, who will be leading the nursing education breakout rooms. And then I'll open the room so we can quickly disperse and come back to finish our session today. Mrs. Morris?
Okay, thank you, Cheryl. Good afternoon, everyone, or good evening. Dr. Sandra A. Russo. She joined the Department of Nursing faculty of Toro College in 2008 and was appointed as chair of the nursing department in 2010. In addition to her role as chair, Dr. Russo serves on the curriculum committee, admission committee for the nursing program, and the interprofessional education committee for the School of Health Sciences. Prior to joining Toro College, Dr. Russo worked at Maimonides Medical Center for 10 years, where she was a clinical nurse specialist for children's services and nurse manager of the neonatal intensive care unit. Previously, she was employed by New York Downtown Hospital as director of nursing, with the responsibility for quality improvement, accreditation, and regulatory compliance. Over a career spanning more than 4 decades, Dr. Russo has impacted healthcare policy, clinical practice, and patient care while elevating the role and enhancing the professional training of nurses. Her leadership activities have included serving as president of the Brooklyn Nurse Partnership, chairperson of the Toro College Nursing Advisory Board, and St. Athanasius Board Officer for the Catholic College. Dr. Russo's research and recent presentations have been on the Roy adaptation model. Her research helped her develop and validate the Roy adaptation mode scales. Dr. Russo earned a BSc in nursing and a MS in nursing education from Wagner College and her PhD in nursing at the City University of New York Graduate Center. She is a member of the Greater New York, Nassau, Suffolk Organization of Nurse Executives, Sigma Theta Tau, New York State Nurses Association, and the National League for Nursing. Let me just get quickly to tell you about, Mrs. Sandra Chisholm Ford. And yes, okay, just waiting for it to come up. It's coming right up here. Okay, so Mrs. Sandra Chisholm Ford is a registered nurse, registered midwife, and a public health nurse who currently lectures at the US School of Nursing, Mona campus, where she obtained her Master of Science degree in nursing education. She's an active member of the Omega Kappa chapter of Sigma Theta Tau International and a member of various professional organizations, including Caribbean Network of Nursing and Midwifery Educators and the Nurses Association of Jamaica. Mrs. Chisholm Ford has been working in the field of nursing for over 20 years and has been consistently involved in community development through her passion for volunteering. She's a member of the UISON's Friends of Mona, engaging in outreach activities at the Mona High School, a board member at the Seaview Gardens New Testament Church of God Basic School. She mentored students at several primary and high schools. For the past 19 years, she has been conducting wellness activities as well as providing maternal and child health services to over 400 citizens of the Whitfield Town community on a weekly basis. Aside from her talents and advocacies, Mrs. Chisholm Ford is also the author and co-author of several publications. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Morris. So the breakout rooms are open. If you look at the bottom of your screens, you'll see breakout rooms. There's one, nursing research, nursing practice, nursing education. I will ask persons to quickly join the breakout room of their choice, and we will be back promptly at 7 to just close off for our question and answer session. So if you're not sure, just click and just move to the rooms. Nursing education, Dr. Sandra Russo and Mrs. Sandra Chisholm Ford, nursing practice, Dr. Franklin Schaefer and Dr. Jacqueline Witter, nursing research, Dr. Jacinta Lindo and Dr. Roy Thompson.
I'm not seeing a breakout room.
You're not seeing them at the end?
I'm not seeing it either.
No, they're not there yet.
No breakout room.
It says they're open, so I'm not sure what's happening. This is all right. Hold on. Is anybody seeing the rooms now? Because I named them and all of that, and it tells me they're in progress.
Not seeing them, Cheryl.
Not seeing any. Not seeing any.
All right, let me reopen again. Rooms. It says rooms 3. Oh. All right. Give me one quick second because I'm not sure what's happening here. I'm seeing that they're open, but nobody's seeing them. All right. Let's go quickly again. All right, I reopened. Anybody seeing anything now?
No.
No.
No. No, I'm not seeing it. Make me a co-host. Sure.
And I had them all open and ready and prepared. I was so waiting. All right, just give us 1 second. That's the technology.
I was at a meeting most of today, and then I just took a nap because I'm going out late.
Someone has their microphone open. All right. I'm opening all the rooms again. All right.
Mhm.
Wonderful. So just pick the one you want to be in. They'll be led two leads each, and we will just get to chatting.
Cheryl, hi, it's
Yes.
Jacqueline. I still
Hi,
don't see
Jackie.
the role. I don't see it on mine.
Yeah, it just came.
I'm not seeing either. I'm not seeing it either. Just it may be because she's co-host.
No, it says that all the participants were invited to join the breakout
I'm
room.
not seeing that.
Click
No
on the
invitation. Okay.
You're not seeing the icon at the bottom that says breakout rooms?
No, we're not.
Click on the apps. There's an apps button at the bottom. Click on that and see what happens.
Okay, let me try that.
App Store, does it say more? Because persons are moving to the rooms.
No, not mine.
Oh, Lord.
I don't see it either. Sorry.
Not mine either.
Are the persons who are not seeing it joining from their phones?
No, I'm on my laptop.
No, laptop. On my computer at work.
And I'm not seeing it on mine either.
Oh boy.
A laptop.
All right. I'm not sure what's happening because persons are moving. So I'm not really sure what's happening where you're not seeing it.
I'm seeing a message that says you're open and please wait to be assigned.
To be assigned?
That's what I'm seeing also.
Where are you seeing that?
Everybody's
Dr.
seeing
Schaefer, you're not
something.
seeing your room either?
Anything.
No.
I'm not seeing either.
Yes, wait.
All right, just give me a second because I'm not understanding what's happening. Yes, that's what I'm doing. All right. It's a good thing I can move speedily. Thank you for your patience. All right, I'm going to open again.
Right, I see join breakout room.
Everybody's seeing it now?
Yeah, I see it.
Yes. Wonderful.
I'm sorry, where should we see this?
At the bottom of the screen, I think it's usually where you see the option for breakout rooms, or sometimes there's a more button and you're able to click that and it says breakout room.
Okay, yes.
All right, so for the persons who are joining us, we're moving into the breakout rooms. There's one room for nursing education, one for nursing practice, and one for nursing research. You could just select the one you'd like to join.
Mrs. Lloyd,
Yes.
can you move from room to room, or you have to stay in the one you joined?
You should be able to select the one you'd like to join, Mrs. Warner. You're not seeing it at the bottom of your screen?
I see it, but I'm saying can you move out and then go back to go into
Yes, you
another
can.
one? Oh.
It will give you an option while you're there to come out of the breakout room, and then you can always select the option to join another one.
Okay. So just to remind me, Dr. Thompson is Roy Thompson. Maybe?
Yes, he's in nursing
research.
research. Yes.
Sorry, I'm using my phone and I don't
still
see
not
the
seeing it,
option
Cheryl.
either. Same with me.
Right.
I'm on my laptop and I'm not seeing it.
I'm not sure from your phones where you may see it since I'm using my laptop, but I do know the breakout room icon is usually at the bottom of the screen, or sometimes there are the ellipses and it gives you a more option. So
Okay,
I'm
no
not sure
problem.
from the phone.
I'll hang
I'm not
tight.
sure from the
I'll hang
phone where it
tight.
goes.
I'll hang tight. I'll hang tight.
Yeah.
Cheryl, I'm not seeing it. I don't know.
You don't see it. You're not seeing the icon either?
No, I'm only
Alright.
seeing
If you may
participants,
see,
chat, share screen record, and reactions.
if you're not on your laptop, you may see a little icon somewhere on the screen, maybe to the left, with little 4 little squares, and it says breakout room. You can do that one.
I don't see it.
So the app looks like 4 squares making a large square. All right. So the 3 breakout rooms. Yeah, so when I'm looking from this side, I'm not seeing what you may see on your screen. So I'm really not sure. And I will have to do some research regarding when you're on your phone, what does it look like? Because it may just be the app. So for the persons who have joined us and you're hearing us talking, there are 3 breakout rooms in progress. There is one for nursing education, one for nursing practice, one for nursing research. They'll be looking at specific strategies for each in each of those rooms. And you may join the room that you'd like to be a part of that discussion. 2 leads for each room. Dr. Schaefer and Dr. Witter at nursing practice, Dr. Russo and Mrs. Chisholm Ford at nursing education, and Dr. Lindo and Dr. Thompson at nursing research.
Cheryl, I'll stay with you. I'm not getting that
All right.
option
Yes,
at
I was
all.
going to look, Jillian, to see, because I'm not sure what it looks like from the phone, and I did not necessarily want to try it. I don't want it to have me switch. Oh, you're on your laptop?
Yes. I'm only seeing the speaker, the video, the participants, chat, share screen, and record and leave.
Oh, and it doesn't give you the breakout room option. I'm not sure what's happening there.
I'm not sure.
Oh boy. The joy of technology.
We did the test and my screen moved and it would never
True.
move.
All right, colleagues, for those of us who are out here, do we want to have our own discussion going?
Good night. I guess we can.
Anybody had any preference for a room? Maybe I could try to send you to that room. Jillian, what room did you want to join? Colleagues, anybody here had a preference for a room? Let me try assigning you since you're not seeing the icon.
I guess I can try research, passion for research and education.
That's Patricia?
Yes.
All right, research. Let me see if I can get you there. All right, have you moved over?
You, Cheryl.
Where would you like to go, Mrs. Mason Quarry?
I said practice.
Practice. All right, let's see if we can move you. Practice.
I came up, I joined. Thank you.
All right. Colleagues, anybody else would like me to try and move you?
Practice for me.
Joan, for practice. All right. Mrs. Aiken, anywhere in particular you wanted to join? Colleagues, if you've just joined us, we are in 3 breakout rooms currently in progress. There is a room for nursing education, one for nursing research, and one for nursing practice. You may join the room that you so choose to be a part of that specific discussion regarding retention and those areas of nursing.
We're back.
No.
It seems you're all coming back. We're all coming back. Yes, I know the time is short. Sounds like there was wonderful conversation happening in the breakout rooms. But we did start a little bit late, and in the interest of time, I know we will need to be finished. So thank you so much to everybody who joined the breakout room, who contributed to the conversation. I know people are coming back. So as we quickly move into our last segment of Q&As, might I ask though, let me see, is everybody back already? Dr. Witzel?
I'm back.
Wonderful. Are you able to give us a very brief summary of your breakout room?
Okay, 2 seconds. The significance of shortages. What are we doing in terms of work balance and making sure that the environment is conducive and that people look at their lifestyle? That's very important. The impact and effect of how we treat our nurses, suggestions regarding helping them to schedule, let them have more autonomy, so to speak, and the support that they needed. Nurses today is different and they're smart. Also, we got to tap into the fact that nurses in some Caribbean countries that they retire at age 55 and their worth and their knowledge is not appreciated anymore. And those are the nurses who retire that can give back to their country, and also, but the government needs to recognize their worth, their professionalism, what they have contributed, and also to keep using that. Another suggestion and another discussion, that the buying process, you have nurses, do something with the nurses, let them do some shadowing so they can go back, implement and influence from their eyes in terms of administration. That was something that was done, I'm going to say, in Trinidad. They're fresh eyes, they can immerse into practice, and also, very important, new nurses, young people, they have different ways of thinking, all right? So we got to make sure that things are attractive for them. And the government needs to know this, so your nurses won't be leaving to go to higher grounds or better salary paying countries. That was the gist. Good.
Thank you very much, Dr. Witzel. Thank you. Dr. Lindo, are you able to give us your 2 sentences from your room?
Okay. So Dr. Thompson was able to articulate a number of strategies how young nurses or junior researchers or persons who are novice at research could possibly gain this experience by working with each other, working with universities across the in North America and Europe at other universities. He spoke about having activities that help to support and build research capacity, like journal clubs, and spoke about publishing together and just trying to have nursing faculty to teach research in a way that it's not as intimidating and allow persons to gain research interest and to feel competent, that they're, to build self-efficacy around the process of research. We also spoke about the fact that research is integral in everything, because as nurses, we're evidence-based, practice-oriented. So therefore, any changes that we will make to maybe perhaps train more nurses, the incorporation of simulation, we know that we would probably need to have evidence-based, empirical evidence to inform some of those decisions. As was said earlier, what may work in other countries might not work here in a local context, and that's something that we would need to address. We spoke about the fact that the curriculum, whether it's the way we look at how the theory courses are, what number of credits for the theory courses versus the practice, and whether or not a residency program, how a residency program might be useful. That's what the US appears to be doing. We spoke about the fact that the brand of nursing in Jamaica has a stronger, in the region, we have a strong reputation. That's why they want to recruit us, is because we're known for having good nurses. How can we leverage that? What are we doing well? These things have to be studied, and they have to be studied in the context of local practice to present empirical evidence. And so I think, I don't know if Dr. Thompson wants to add anything, but that was my
gist of it. All right. Thank you, Dr. Lindo. And last but not least, as Dr. Thompson said earlier, Dr. Russo from the nursing education breakout room, your 2 sentences.
Okay, I learned a lot about the Jamaican nurses and their education that I didn't know about before today. We
Okay.
did speak about the PhD programs and Jamaica and scholarships. We spoke about the value of nursing education. And maybe Ms. Ford, would you like to add, Sandra, to what we spoke about?
Okay, thank you, Sandra. Okay, we spoke about the remuneration for nurse educators in Jamaica, that it's not commensurate with the level of effort that we have to put into nursing education. And it also, as it relates to remuneration, it was also brought out that our students earn more than us, so there's no incentive for them to come into education. The wait time that persons who are interested in studying have to endure because of the culture of a first come, first serve, or a seniority playing its part in facilitating or allowing nurses to pursue postgraduate courses is one of the other challenges that we have. And the lack of scholarships, I think that was what Sandra was trying to mention earlier, that the scholarships offered here stops at the master's level, and they do not facilitate PhD study. Also, it was mentioned that the certain specialties that some of our colleagues would like to pursue and certain specialties are not offered in Jamaica. So there is lack of interest where that is concerned. So if we address, this is just some of the things that we spoke about. 15 minutes is a short time to cover all of the excitement that was going on in the room. So we may need to do this again, but this is basically some of the things that we mentioned in our discussion and deliberation.
All right, thank you to our Sandras. Dr. Schaefer or Dr. Thompson, did either of you had a quick comment to add from your breakout room?
No, just a quick comment overall, just to say that, I mean, don't let this discussion go in vain. You know, we can write editorials coming out of this, this discussion. Dr. Schaefer is well published, Dr. Linder is well published. You know, we can write editorials that maybe the IOM would be interested, or the PAHO. I know they do have a journal that they may be interested in a synthesis of this discussion. And the fact too that as nurses we have to be very politically savvy, and we have to, I believe in hiring like political lobbyists and really having that connections with people at the seats of power. The doctors have had a very good run at doing that. And most times they use our strategies, right? And so I really do think that we have to just kick open those doors and not wait on the government or the medical doctors to address the issue that is affecting us.
I think there's one thing, Roy, I would really like to pick up on that and offer our services. If we would like to get a group of us together to publish on this, I'm more than willing to help us do it. Yes. Secondly, I'd like to say
I'm ready.
Okay, Sandra. I'm going to ask Matt if Cheryl, if you want to coordinate that, we will gladly work with you.
Yes, I will.
And we'll put it in our International Center on Nurse Migration and also in another area. But I will also mention to you, one of the deficits I think we have in this whole thing is that employees leave, nurses leave because they're manager, not because of salary, not because of anything else. And we must invest in the preparation of our managers, particularly in today's environment. Our nurse managers have a tendency to be just a little older because we come up their career trajectory and years of service. And I would urge us to really invest in preparing the managers and leaders so they can be more effective leaders.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Schaefer. Agreed. All right, colleagues, we've had a wonderful time. We were a little bit late, so I'm asking if there's anybody who has a question I'll take 5 questions before we allow our panelists to have the final say, and we will end a wonderful evening. Are there any questions? You may raise your hand, or you may type it in the chat, and I'll give you 60 seconds if there's quiet, because I know we've had a good evening. Just in case there's anything that pops into your mind that we did not ask, or you didn't hear, or you're thinking about as we are moving forward with where do we go from this conversation, because as we are all agreeing, we're not finishing the conversation here tonight. All right, so as I'm giving you time to think, I'm throwing out I'm waiting. There was somebody, go right ahead. No?
Cheryl,
right.
while you're waiting for the questions, just to say that, so I'm a postdoctoral fellow at the University of Missouri. For people who are interested in research and collaborating, feel free to email me. I can connect you to the faculty at the University of Missouri. Maybe you're interested in doing some type of, maybe want to work with them on some paper, but go to the website, look at what they're studying, send an email, say, I'm interested in studying this, as a way to just start build your, capacity as a researcher. Also, there's an MOU that's being formed between UWISON and Duke. Please take advantage of that. That is how I got in contact with Duke. Right? Don't just feel like you're on this island, like people out there are willing to work with you. All right?
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Thompson. We'll look for your email in the chat. So I will start with Dr. Schaefer, if I may. I'm asking our panelists, this is my question for your final word, and then I'll ask our co-leads from the breakout rooms to give their comments as I will close off. What, after this conversation, might be the most important thing we could do right now to impact retention?
I think one of the most important things we as nurses must realize is that we are more similar than different. If we could focus on our similarity and magnify that instead of worrying about the other things and dividing us, we as a profession would advance very rapidly. We are more similar than different, and that's around the world.
Thank you, Dr. Schaefer. In the small world that we're in at that.
Exactly.
Mrs. Warner?
Yes, I think specifically we need to pay attention to what the nurses are on the ground are saying. As it relates to the reasons why they are migrating. And so our research, should be focused on capturing that data, as I was saying in the chat, the research chat, not just, focus on esoteric, data, but getting data that are very specific in terms of, when I say specific, what the nurses are saying and how it's affecting this migration is affecting them, and to focus attention on finding solutions with regard to resolving this problem that has been long affecting nurses and nursing.
Thank you, Mrs. Warner. Mrs. Mason-Quarry?
Right. Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with the other speakers, and this is a long-standing problem. It's having a negative impact on nursing and nurses and patient outcomes. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to get the political will from the governments, and that as triads, meaning policymakers, advocacy, and regulators, we will listen to the voices of our stakeholders, and we will get some strategies that can help us to resolve some of the issues that we face presently.
All right, thank you. Dr. Thompson?
I mean, for me, very tangibly, I mean, there are a few papers written with, regional, culturally appropriate strategies. The managed migration paper lays it out very, very, very clearly. This is evidence that can be used by our chief nursing, officers to really take to the government, because they directly have a seat at the table. They can, work with schools of nursing and the nursing council, which holds a lot of the data, the hospitals that have nursing data and how many nurses resign, and make a case how much money the country is losing and how it's negatively impacting patient care.
All right, thank you. Dr. Russo?
Yes, I believe that it was very important for us as a group to come together and outreach more maybe to legislation and publication is very, very important. I'd like to help with publication too. And if there was some way, I don't know if anyone is representing any nursing schools in Jamaica, but maybe we can make a lead, we can collaborate and make an affiliation. Working with my nursing students and your nursing students, I would love to do some sort of collaborative work.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Chisholm Ford?
Thank you, Cheryl. What I have to add is that we should consider reverse migration. And in terms of what is keeping most of us here is what could be attracting some of the nurses who have left to come back, such as patriotism and the climate and so on. So how can we leverage those to get some of our nurses who have left to come back?
All right, thank you. Dr. Witter?
Thank you so much for this opportunity. And as a real yardie, I have to say to my colleagues and everyone, stop being so hard with them young nurses coming up. Allow them to grow. Be supportive of them. Mentor them. And here we are. Cheryl, you didn't ask me to advocate, but I'm a member of the Omega Kappa chapter. I'm also a mentor. I've seen a young man going through nursing program, and I'm still going to support him. All of us, call Cheryl and become a mentor for one of those nursing students. That's what I would like to see. Give back. Stop eating our young. Stop being so punitive. All right? Florence Nightingale, she would have rolled in the grave to know how we treat nurses. Stop it. Give back. Support nurses. One love, yardies.
Thank you so much, Dr. Witter. Dr. Lindo?
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Garrigues-Lloyd, for an excellent evening. I really enjoyed being here, and I'm appreciative of the efforts and the perspective presented here by everyone. I just want to say anecdotally that I believe that COVID has really put research on the back burner. People they tend to want to look at what they would consider to be their immediate needs, as opposed to something like research, which is, pie in the sky kind of thing. And we need to be able to change that. But I've found that even in interacting with colleagues in the region, that post-COVID, I have a harder time making those connections. And so that's one of the things that I really hope that we can make an effort to emphasize the importance of research and to build these partnerships. Dr. Russell, Dr. Schaefer they both, made commitments. Dr. Thompson, I'm hoping that we can really make a movement with that. And Dr. Monroe is here, so let me give a little shout out for the Caribbean Journal of Nursing.
Yes.
I am hoping that it will be revamped in a timely manner.
And expanded to be the Caribbean Journal of Nursing and Midwifery.
All right, so thank you so much, everyone. I know we're all going to be leaving, and I want to say, firstly, just thank you so much to our panelists. Dr. Schaefer, thank you for joining us. Mrs. Warner, Dr. Thompson, Dr. Lindo, I know you all have to leave. Mrs. Mason Quarry, Dr. Russo, Dr. Witter, and we want to say Mrs. Chisholm Ford, all for participating in the breakout rooms. For all our colleagues who joined us, our regional coordinator, head of school, chapter members from our other chapters, all our colleagues, it's important. I'm agreeing with Dr. Thompson as we are closing off. Let us not stop the conversation here. We've got some promises to do publication. Dr. Thompson says you'll put in the chat so we can get connected to collaborate. And I want to say big up to the Caribbean region. I saw the Grenada and the St. Lucia and the Bahamas and the Guyana and the Turks and Caicos and the Barbados flags going up. Thank you, Colombia, for also joining us. It's been awesome. Just in case you missed it, Dr. Schaefer talked to us about some national and international plans. There was an ACT ×3 and a plan ×3. From our CNO, I want to thank her because she quickly did a survey and we can use that survey as a part of what we will publish. Our chief nurse broke it down for us on where we're heading. I was surprised to hear that we're going to the Philippines and Ireland too. And Dr. Thompson gave us very practical retention strategies that we could look at to ensure we're doing it even at our local level. So although we're going to be doing it bigger, we can do that. And I want to remind us, as Dr. Schaefer said, our similarities are more than our differences. And with everything that's happening, we are in a small world. So I'm asking each of us today as we close off to remember that we need to retain our nurses. It impacts our profession. It impacts our healthcare. It impacts the quality care that we will be delivering. And I want to ask of us, let us move forward from here. Even in your small corner, there is something that can be done. Can we put some strategies in place on our wards, in our health centers, in our schools of nursing, in regards to research? And can we collaborate? Because together we are louder. So I thank you all on behalf of Omega Kappa. Yes,
Mrs.
for
Roy?
joining us. Yes, go ahead.
Just a quick word, if you permit me, please, just to
Sure.
put in a plug-in for CNO conference coming up in October. From the 8th to the 15th, please contact our Madam President of the NAJ, Patsy Edwards, and also she's the Secretary of CNO. And so, you know, please, in any way that you can lend some support to CNO, which I think is a very, very important regional organization, we'll be grateful. Thank you.
All right. So we'll just take that in. CNO will be having their conference in October the 8th to the 15th. Reach out to your national nurses associations and let's all get together and feel all right in Jamaica in October. On behalf of Omega Kappa, we thank you for joining us. I hope everybody had a chance to benefit and you're leaving energized and refocused and motivated to let's do something about retention. Have a very wonderful evening, everybody. And thank you so much once again for joining Omega Kappa. Nursing excellence lives here. Have a very good night.
Cheryl, thank you. Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Cheryl.
Bye, everybody.